Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are really getting into something quite heavy, actually. It's a philosophy that makes you question the price you pay for just being, well, for being seen as good, decent, mature.
It's definitely unsettling
Wow.
because it taps into this feeling, this emptiness that a lot of people who've, ticked all the boxes seem to carry around.
Exactly. They've achieved things, follow the rules. They're successful by most standards.
Yeah.
But there's this numbness inside.
Right. And the really radical idea we're exploring today is, what if that numbness isn't some kind of personal failure? What if it's actually the point, the intended result of fitting in so well?
That's the core of it, isn't it? This concept of, what was the term? Civilized suicide?
Precisely. Civilized suicide. The quiet, maybe even polite death of the authentic self. It's like being pruned constantly until you look right to everyone else, but inside, there's not much left.
Wow. Civilized suicide. That suggests we're not just victims here, but somehow involved in our own disappearance.
That's part of the chilling aspect, yes.
Yeah.
So our mission today really is to look under the hood, to examine the psychological machinery that kind of demands this trade-off. What do we give away for safety, for belonging?
Okay, let's start there. This machinery of morality. Because saying we're heading towards civilized suicide sounds extreme. We need rules, don't we? We need maturity. Society needs structure.
Oh, absolutely. No one's arguing for pure chaos.
Yeah.
But the argument here is about how that morality gets in. Is it natural, or is it more like software, an
An
installation?
installation, like
Right.
building a cage inside the mind.
That's a good way to put it, yes. Like a psychological cage. And the key is we learn to decorate it, maybe even to love it. This installation process, that's the birth of what Freud called the superego, the internal authority.
Okay, how does that actually happen? Can you give us like a picture of that moment when the bars go up?
Sure. Think about a very young child, maybe 2 or 3. All instinct, pure aliveness, right? They see something fragile, maybe a vase, beautiful, forbidden, and they reach for it. Not out of malice, just curiosity, exploration, and then the parent's voice cuts through, sharp, maybe anxious. Don't.
Right. Standard parenting moment?
But what happens inside the child? They freeze. That command, that external no, it comes with this implied threat withdrawal of love, maybe punishment, loss of safety,
Yeah.
and it gets internalized. It becomes this little voice inside their own head. This urge is bad. Wanting this makes me bad. And that voice, initially the parents, then the teachers, then cultures, it starts filtering everything, every impulse.
Until you don't need the external voice anymore.
Exactly. You do it to yourself. You become your own inhibitor.
That paints the superego as this internal police force. But okay, let me push back a bit here. In our modern world, we think we're past all that strict Victorian stuff, right? No more fire and brimstone priests dictating every move. So who's running this internal software now?
Well, the system just got smarter, more subtle. It doesn't need the old authorities. Think about it. We've got algorithms on social media rewarding performative kindness, right? Virtue signaling is currency.
Okay.
We've got corporate wellness programs that subtly police emotions, be positive, manage your stress for productivity's sake.
And therapy speak everywhere.
Exactly. Therapy speak that can sometimes pathologize normal human reactions. Anger isn't just anger, it's unprocessed trauma. Frustration needs to be reframed. It's less about overt oppression.
And more about optimization.
That's the word. You're being optimized, smoothed out, made efficient, manageable, quiet for the system.
But hold on, isn't working through trauma good? Isn't learning to manage destructive anger part of being a functional adult? Is that all just the superego tightening its grip?
It's a challenging question. From this perspective, the ultimate aim isn't necessarily genuine healing or integration, but quietude, compliance. You get praised for being low maintenance, for being easy to work with.
Which sounds positive on the surface.
But in this philosophical view, those are just code words, euphemisms for being, well, psychologically neutered, made harmless. The superego loves a well-behaved ghost.
Well-behaved ghost, okay.
And this optimization, this quieting, it's seen as necessary because deep down, civilization is fundamentally uncomfortable with the raw primal forces that actually drive us.
You mean the drives? Eros and Thanatos?
Yeah, the twin engines. The superego's main job is to keep them in check.
So let's define those again, specifically in this context. Eros first, the life drive.
Eros is, well, it's everything that pulls towards connection. Merging, bonding, love, creation. But also wild, irrational desire. The urge to build, to grow, to embrace life in its messy fullness.
Okay, and Thanatos, the death drive. Sounds ominous.
It does, but it's not just about literal death. It's the impulse to shatter tension, to break things down, to scream, to rage, to destroy obstacles. It's aggression, yes, but maybe also a necessary force for change, for clearing space.
But both sound inconvenient, messy, unpredictable.
Precisely. They're powerful and largely unacceptable in their raw forms if you want a smooth-running society.
So if these drives are fundamental, are part of us, what happens when we're told constantly, no, lock that away, control that?
Well, repression isn't like hitting delete on a file. It's more like shoving things into an already overstuffed closet. The energy doesn't vanish.
It just gets stored.
Stored, and it festers. It builds pressure.
Yeah.
That lockdown arrows, that stifled thanatos, it turns into this internal pressure cooker.
And how does that pressure manifest if it's not coming out directly?
It leaks out sideways, doesn't it? It lives in the body. Maybe as chronic tension in your shoulders, as unexplained illness, as insomnia, as that vague, heavy sadness you sometimes feel on a Sunday night, even when things are objectively fine.
That nameless feeling of just wanting something, but you don't know what, like holding your breath all the time?
Yes. You become that well-behaved ghost we talked about. You've traded your own vibrant, possibly dangerous aliveness for predictability, for stability.
And you might even call that cage self-discipline or peace.
You might. But according to this view, it's a kind of grief. Grieving the parts of yourself that had to be surgically removed, or at least anesthetized, to fit in.
But then there's the idea of channeling, right? We're told that maturity is about taking that raw energy, the aggression, the desire, and turning it into something productive, ambition, art,
Yeah.
creativity.
Yes. Sublimation. That's presented as the healthy solution, isn't it? And perhaps it's civilization's most brilliant trick.
A trick? Why a trick?
Because it works on one level. It takes those unacceptable impulses and transforms them like alchemy into things society actually admires. Ambition, artistic creation, intellectual pursuits.
So we feel like we've evolved, mastered the beast within.
Exactly. We believe we've transcended our animal nature. But from this perspective, we've just dressed the animal in a very respectable suit. We haven't integrated it, we've just cleverly disguised it.
Okay, break that down. How does Eros get sublimated or dressed up?
Well, think about raw erotic energy. Its potential to disrupt, to connect intensely, maybe even break existing rules or boundaries that's dangerous to social order.
Right.
So it gets managed, branded, packaged. It's channeled away from pure, raw connection and maybe into consumerism. The promise becomes, buy this, look like this, achieve this status, then you'll feel desired.
So desire gets funneled into acquiring things or achieving a certain image rather than direct connection.
Oh, into very controlled, managed forms of intimacy, even self-care, when it becomes a rigid performative checklist instead of genuine responsiveness to what you need. It's eros, sanitized.
Tamed.
Okay, that's eros. What about thanatos? The rage, the aggression, that seems even more visible when it's sublimated.
Oh, definitely. Society is terrified of raw aggression, so it gets redirected constantly. Think about hustle culture.
Working yourself to the bone.
Right. You can't scream at your unreasonable boss, perhaps. So instead, you punish yourself. You work 80 hours a week. You channel that aggression into crushing the competition. It feels productive, even virtuous. Or into moral outrage, online debates, maybe?
Perfect example. Using language as a weapon, destroying opponents in socially acceptable arenas. It's aggression, just laundered through intellect or ideology.
Even fitness culture sometimes, pushing the body relentlessly.
Yes, punishing the body until it submits, until it achieves some impossible standard. It looks like self-improvement, like virtue. But underneath, it can be aggression turned inward, self-attack disguised as discipline.
There's a historical connection you mentioned in the notes. The Victorian era.
Exactly. It's a stark example. You have the peak of Victorian domestic repression, extreme propriety, corsets, silence around sexuality, total control at home, and what's happening simultaneously.
A massive industrial expansion.
And an explosion of industrial warfare and brutal colonial expansion. The theory suggests a link. The more tightly aggression is controlled and denied within the individual and the home, the more violently it erupts outside on a larger scale. The cleaner the drawing room, the bloodier the battlefield. Repression doesn't destroy the energy, it just displaces it.
That's a disturbing thought, that our personal self-control might fuel larger conflicts.
It's one of the deep, uncomfortable ideas here. And all this repression, this sublimation, it leads to another core problem.
Guilt. Guilt. But not just for doing bad things.
No, that's the insidious part. Once the superego is fully installed, you feel guilt not just for what you do, but for what you want. For for the impulses themselves, for the anger you feel but swallow, for the desire you have that doesn't fit the rules, guilt for simply being a creature of messy, inconvenient drives.
And the superego as a master isn't easily satisfied, is it? It doesn't want you to be happy.
It wants obedience. And according to this view, it often seems to want suffering.
Yeah.
Self-denial, restriction, exhaustion, these become proof of your loyalty, proof you're good.
So the more you deny your basic needs and desires,
The more the superego internally applauds you, but often with more guilt, because you can never be perfectly pure, perfectly compliant. It's a cycle.
which might explain why someone who seems to have it all together, the perfect employee or parent, can still feel intensely miserable or self-critical inside. It's not a personal failing.
It's presented here as the logical outcome. Neurosis isn't necessarily weakness. It's the psyche buckling under the weight of impossible demands for self-denial and guilt.
You become that low-maintenance employee you mentioned.
Or that parent who smiles through gritted teeth, preaching positive vibes while swallowing down waves of rage and fatigue, only to maybe snap later in private, consumed by shame.
We traded our wildness, our authenticity, for this promise of safety and belonging.
Only to find ourselves feeling like strangers in our own lives.
Yeah.
Numb. Ghosts, as we said. Competent, compliant, but gone.
That's the ultimate betrayal, isn't it? The realization that the safety cost you yourself.
And then comes the final twist. The really destabilizing part of this philosophy.
Because
You aren't just the victim of all this repression. You're not just passively receiving it from culture.
No. Then what?
You become its architect. The culture provides the blueprint, the tools, the initial push. But that relentless voice inside, the one demanding perfection, dictating every impulse, enforcing the rules, that voice is you.
We internalize the jailer.
You internalize the cage, and now you defend it. You call its bars maturity, responsibility, self-control, safety. So when you even think about breaking out,
You're fighting yourself,
Yeah.
your own internalized rules.
exactly, and recognizing that you are upholding the cage, that awareness is powerful, maybe even dangerous to the status quo.
So the point isn't that we're fundamentally broken people.
No, the point is perhaps that we are over-civilized, buried under layers and layers of shoulds and shouldn'ts that we've accepted as our own.
Okay, so this deep dive, it isn't about offering a 5-step fix to suddenly become wild and free.
Not at all. It's primarily about recognition, awareness, seeing the architecture of the cage, understanding how it was built and who holds the key, or rather,
That there isn't really a key.
the tradition this comes from suggests the cage door might not even be locked, just latched, and you internalize the act of keeping it latched.
So the awareness itself is the start.
Awareness, and then the really difficult questions, the ones you have to ask yourself, like, what have you actually sacrificed? Not just to survive, we all make compromises for that, but specifically to belong, to be approved of.
What parts of yourself did you silence or trade away to be seen as predictable, manageable, good?
And then the biggest question, what if the very feelings you're most afraid of, the raw anger, the intense desire, the grief, the chaos, what if those are the only things that hold the energy to bring you back to, well, to feeling truly alive?
That's a profound and frankly a scary thought.
It is. So maybe one final thing for you, the listener, to just sit with in the quiet after this. Ask yourself honestly, when is the last time you did something purely, simply, because it felt good?
Not because it was healthy or productive or part of your wellness routine or the right thing to do.
No, just because some part of you, your body, your instinct wanted it, and it felt unapologetically, maybe even wildly good.
And if you struggle to remember, if that question draws a blank.
That's not necessarily a personal failing, according to this philosophy.
Yeah.
That's just the superego quietly smiling.
No.
Job done.